Welcome back. Great to have you with us on The Full View. Now, this month, the EFF turns 10 years old. Established in July 2013, the Red Berets have become the third largest political party at a national and municipal level. This week, Dr Ongama Mtimka wrote that the EFF is searching for the next manoeuvre that will give it a much bigger increase in its electoral fortunes. To discuss, we're joined by Dr Mtimka, a lecturer at Nelson Mandela University and chair of the South African Political Risk Institute. Doctor, great to have you with us, as always. What sort of showing, firstly, do you think the EFF could have next year? And then what do they have to do to make a splash?
Good evening to you, Francis, and your viewers. So my colleague, Gary Prevost, and I have actually looked into electoral performance of the EFF and studied deep its strategy and tactics. And we make a projection that the party it looks poised to grow, holding everything constant in terms of what it can do by way of strategy that's drastic. So if it continues on the path that it has been, we project that it probably could stay around the 1 to 3% growth that it has sustained since it started, being in the political scene in South Africa. However, you're quite right. In that article I wrote this week, I'm reflecting on what seems to be overtures to the radical economic transformation faction of the ANC by the EFF, and make a point that what they are pursuing is a much bigger margin of growth. Say, for example, roughly between 3 to 4, 5, 6%, through what I see as a strategic association or acquisition. And I juxtapose that with effective campaign craft. So if it stayed with effective campaign craft, the party could be within 1 to 3% growth. But if it is bold in acquiring RET leaders, it may attract between 3 to 4 and above percent growth, but that will come at a huge cost to the party in terms of, what it is perceived to represent by South Africans.
So I think you outlined that, because the EFF has always said the ANC is corrupt. It represents an alternative. Now you're talking about a closeness with the likes of Zwanele Manyi, the former president Jacob Zuma, the former Secretary General S. Magashule. So I guess, do the benefits outweigh that cost that you're talking about?
So this is where it gets a little tricky. And I say that the party elites will need to think very carefully about what they do here in terms of what their final decision is going to be. People who are leaving the ANC, some of them left it for the EFF because the EFF represented radical politics minus the anti-rule of law posture of the RET. Now, if you are going to marry or join forces with a faction that was seen to be not only for radical politics, but seen to be exploiting radical politics for what otherwise is an agenda of state capture, it may be a high risk, but also potentially high reward move for the EFF.
In the local government elections, like you say, the EFF held its ground, but it didn't see much growth, or that has been the trend. Some attributed that to votes, for example, that went to the Patriotic Alliance or Action SA. And there we have leaders who've spoken out about foreigners, about migration in a very different way to the EFF. But has the EFF lost its position in a sense of being the radical party, and now it's trying to regain that lost legacy somehow?
So I don't think that the party is losing out on a bigger share of the electorate as a result of losing credibility as far as the radical posture is concerned. I think what may be a challenge in some constituencies is the EFF's for example, immigration politics, its attitude to open borders, which may be construed as something that has to do with, a laissez-faire or no controls at all approach to, entering South Africa. Also, the EFF's rhetoric is also sometimes very alienating. So people may see it's radical politics, but not choose it because its approach to citizenship sometimes is not inclusive. So that is it borders on identity politics.
Yeah.
So if you look at throughout history, parties that play too much on identity politics end up not succeeding much in the South African voter market.
All right, and I wish we could talk about the EFF strategies to disrupt the state of the nation, for example, but just for time, very quickly, there have been theories over the years that the EFF was actually trying to get the attention of the ANC. Maybe Julius Malema even wanted to take over the governing party down the line. Now there is talk of a coalition next year. What do you make of the theories? Any prediction about what will happen in its relationship with the ANC next year?
I think that Julius Malema and Floyd Shivambu in particular still have a desire, at least by their behavior, of wanting to be kingmakers in the ANC. And that sometimes clouds their judgment on what is it that they've actually built since leaving the party. The EFF built its identity outside of the ANC, and these leaders, and if they are not checked by their fellow leaders, may plunge what they have built into, a position of subservience in relation to the ANC, if they are not careful about what is it that they have built. So my view is that they should continue to focus on the EFF as a party, and they will most likely negotiate from a stronger position than this thing of being fixated with the politics of the ANC.
All right, thank you so much, political analyst Dr. Ongama Mtimka, looking at the EFF, where it's come from, where it's going, as the party turns 10 years old this month.